Hello, it's Josh, aka Spyglass. This is Theory Query 5. In this episode, we're going to go through my song Astral Canvas, which is the final track on the album titled Astral Canvas. There's not much to say in the way of background like I do in these videos, but what I can say is the whole idea was essentially born out of this guitar riff right here. So the whole idea was to make a lot of ambience. You can hear there's a lot of reverb and delays going on. So what I'm doing there is holding down, going from low to high on the guitar, G, C, and E. So it's an inverted C major, but I'm holding those down on the 5th fret and barring the 5th fret. And then I'm hammering onto the 6th, going from E to F on the B string. So it's essentially going from a C major inversion to an F sus2 inversion. So going from low to high, that was G, C, E. And then when I go to the F sus2 shape, it is G, C, F. And that is the basis of the majority of the song. So it starts with guitar, and I'll let it kind of play into the piano. So the way this opens is I'm hitting 2 notes on the guitar with a bunch of effects, and then when I get to the piano, I'm hitting those same notes, which are G and C. So let's just start at the beginning here. So I'm just doubling up the notes on the piano, and even though the majority of the song is all about ambient, I wanted to have a little bit of an up-tempo orchestral intro. If you've listened to anything I do, you'll know that's not exactly a secret of mine, that I am apt to do so. So I essentially am following along the timing on the piano with some staccato violin here and cello here. And so to show you, I'm using Cinematic Studio solo strings. Here's the violin patch. And I use the key switches, and you'll see this jump because I want to end on a sforzando each time. So it's kind of like going dun dun, a little sing-songy. So let me just solo that out, and you'll hear how it works, and then you'll kind of see how I'm playing these staccato notes up to here. Bunch of reverb on there. So you really hear that sforzando note take hold there. Play it again. So the only thing I do with the cello is I essentially double up some of those notes. So you can see I'm just kind of bouncing between G, G, C. There's your E, your D, and your C, which if I open up the piano, once I get into this little ostinato of sorts, you can see I'm doing the same thing, bouncing between G and C, but then walking down E, D, C, and then I'll do it up like a octave higher. And there's some variations in here, like you see I go just G to C and then drop C to G, just for like some extra touches, because as I've said in the past, if I'm doing some repetitious stuff, I like to throw in variations to keep it from getting boring. So to hear how these play together, I'll just kind of start in here. nice. And you can see with all the reverb on these, it's already getting spacious and airy, which is what I want. Then I add in some solo violin, and you can see there's a lot of, the lighter these are, the lower the velocity is. So you can see I've got a lot of lower velocities because I wanted it to be very soft and emotional. And you can see I've even got like a portamento, which is why this one is so low. And by having those lower velocities, it just plays really softly. You hear more of the string, more airs in it. And I have plenty more of that right here as well. But before we get there, there's this transition section here. And this is all just about transitioning into ambience. So the way I do that is with Oliver Arnold's Felt Piano. And you can see I've got both of these mics activated with some decent amount of onboard reverb. And the difference with this is really this microphone pushes a little more air and ambience into it. So if I were to activate that, I'll hit it without this mic activated. Now I'll push it in. So it's pretty spacey. And then this other bit here, you can see I just copied and pasted these. It is Spitfire Audio's Labs series synth pad number 3. And so here's what those two sound like. And this is somewhat random. It's what I call sparkles, that I just kind of have these soft, higher pitched notes playing in the background. So on its own, it doesn't really have much structure, but this is what it sounds like. So in the context of the whole thing, so they become even more subtle in the context of the whole song. So the next things I've got are 2 pads that are made by Spitfire Audio's London Contemporary Orchestra Textures. One's kind of a lower end, and while the other one's more mid-range. So you've got your kind of bass pad, and then a little more of the just reverbery soft pad. So here's another solo violin that kind of helps transition. You can see how many of these notes are low, and there's more portamentos in here to really give it some more emotional context. So I'll kind of just run through a few of these notes here. So very soft, very emotional. Then I get to that main guitar riff that I introed with, but underneath that I do some other things, like I go back to the felt piano and synth, and more sparkles that I do. I kind of hit G, C, and then I come up an octave, D, C, F, E. So it's all that same like core group of notes that I was doing at the beginning. And here's what those sound like together. It's one of my favorite parts of the song. So it's to give more a little bit of a lighter sparkle with some reverb underneath everything. And so that in context. Underneath all that, I introduce another London Contemporary Orchestra Textures and some strings. and they're real subtle. I just copied and pasted these. Well, I played them together, but I edited it and copied it. So this is what those sound like. It's just to give it more low end, more space. These strings are very soft. So here's some of that. And you can see I'm climbing using, again, that same chord group of notes, an F and a G and a C. I do finally splash in an A, but then here you go again, C, F, G. So it was all based on, like I said, that G, C, E, and then hammering the F. So those 4 notes are kind of what I focused on. And then I had even more soft emotional violin. So another little thing I'll throw in is towards the end of the song here. You can see this is it. The last thing I do is another C major shape, but I'm playing down by the 12th fret. So I've got this higher pitched C major going on. And so I needed to add low end. So I'm just going to kind of click it, and you'll hear the low end come in. So that's kind of a technique I use. You don't need to hit the entire spectrum of frequencies, but I did want to counteract just having all these high notes, especially with the delay and reverb going on. And so I'm doing that mainly with that Spitfire Lab synth, felt piano, and then the contemporary orchestra texture. To kind of counteract that high end. So that is about all there is to really go over. The whole thing was just about building these textures. I have these little sparkles going on, adding the low end to counteract the high end, very emotional violin in there, and then just variations of pads and lots of reverb and delay on these guitars. And that's kind of it. It's just like a slow build and saturation on there. So that is all there is to go over on this. Go ahead and check out the song. As always, it'll be linked below. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Ignore my cat in the background unless you really want to know. His name is Snacks. That will do it for this. Spotify and Bandcamp will also be linked below. Thanks for watching.